Folks, this is TradeTaxPlus checking in for TradeTaxPlus Center of Excellence. This is the second technical video for July 2019, and it deals with the issue of when I pay a deposit for a hotel to secure my accommodation, is that deposit subject to VAT? Now, the general principle is that a deposit is excluded from the concept of consideration. So it's not consideration, no VAT is payable on that. The question, however, is payment isn't the only issue that triggers VAT. It's invoicing or payment. So the first question we have to ask ourselves, have you issued an invoice for that payment? And if that invoice was issued for services to be rendered, then it doesn't matter whether that deposit is a deposit or not. Then an invoice has been issued, and you trigger a VAT liability in respect of the invoice that was issued. Let's assume the invoice was not an invoice, so it was another document. It's not a document notifying an obligation to make payment. Then you have to go look at what conditions are attached to that deposit. If it is a deposit that is for future services to be rendered, then it is most likely a part payment for future services. So it's a question of coming back and looking at what are the conditions linked to such a payment. From a SARS perspective, in their guide on their guide for the entertainment industry, they look at two poles almost. On the one side, they say it's something like a key deposit, where I pay a deposit and for a key, and when I bring the key back, I get my deposit back. That's clearly not subject to VAT, being a deposit. On the other side, you have to be very careful that when you pay an amount as a deposit, that it is not for future services to be rendered, but it is purely just a deposit that sits there for the benefit of the person that's made that deposit. Now, that argument doesn't quite gel if you look at the wording of the VAT Act that says a deposit whether refundable or not. So the fact that the deposit is not refundable almost means that I've paid for a service to be rendered, whether that service is the actual occupation of the facility or whether it is a payment to secure the facility. Both of those things seem to me like services. So I think SARS is probably taking this a bit wide, but the answer is really be careful. From a client perspective, or from a person that occupies or operates the hotel, they should keep that money in a separate account. I don't think it needs to be a true trust account, but it should be in a separate account, and it should never be taken as income for accounting purposes. There's always be a liability to a third party. That gives you some level of leverage to argue your case that it is a deposit. Okay, so that gives you some kind of idea of the issues around deposits. It's not simple. Be careful. The devil sits in the detail. It always is like that. Okay, this is then TradeTaxPlus checking out for TradeTaxPlus Center of Excellence. I hope you enjoy the last video which will follow this one.